Today, I've come to the Victoria and Albert Museum in London for one particular reason. I'm painting clothes onto 3 nude female statues, not to vandalize them, but to give them their dignity back. Then I'm taking you to a park
where there is a certain particular statue that has created a ton of controversy amongst the feminist world.
Somewhere in between, we're speedrunning the entire history of nudity in art.
Queen Victoria was so shocked by the figure's nudity that she had a fake leaf created to put over his bits. Okay, Queen Victoria, a little prudish.
From ancient Greece to modern day chaos, and by the end of this video, you might see art, statues, and controversy very differently.
Let's check it out.
Before we left for the museum, I had already encountered my first problem.
Can you bring your paints in?
Prohibited charcoal, crayons, watercolor, spray paints, adhesive scissors, and UV torches. Whoa. UV torches make sense. Oh, you can sketch only with pencils,
See?
graphite, and chalk. Oh, I didn't bring nice pencils. I just have the mechanical pencil. All right, this is good to know before we leave, because that would really suck to show up and they took all my art supplies. I think if they were to do that, I'd be like, I'm going home.
From my understanding, statues were only carved by men back in the day, and it started really, the big marble sculptures that you see started in the era of the Greek era. Back then, when it came to nudes, they were like, only sculpt men. Until one sculptor basically was like, yes, but what if we sculpted the goddesses? Technically, goddesses are not women. And it wasn't until the Romans came in, the Romans were like, yeah, let's sculpt every kind of body. That's cool. Well, we've made it to the outside of the Victoria and Albert Museum, which, as you can see, is already quite impressive.
The thing I love about London is admission to museums is free, thanks to some billionaire who was like, yeah, learning should be free for all. Mwah. Love that.
Okay, let's go inside.
Upon entering the museum, I was confronted with my first real challenge. The vast halls of nude female statues I was expecting were filled to the brim with naked men. During the medieval period, it was unacceptable to sculpt nudity.
It was kind of like, you really couldn't do sculptures of nudity. It was inappropriate.
But by the Renaissance, artists started to get away with it because they were like, well, we're just sculpting biblical male characters. I will have to search my way through history to find the 3 sculptures for myself to paint.
I'm really quite shocked, actually, by the fact that there's not that much. I had the assumption there was a lot more nudity, like nude women sculptures. I haven't seen any. A lot of male, nude male sculptures. What I find really fascinating is that a lot of the female sculptures that I see have clothes that are quite draped, and they got this nice little belly and pooch. Fun fact, that pooching belly actually inspired an entire fashion era where women actually would put pillows underneath their gowns, making them look pregnant.
I'm actually very struck by the workmanship of the statues. It's quite spectacular. I'm shocked how lifelike they feel as a work of art.
I find it quite funny that a lot of these male statues that are nude male statues are quite feminized, actually. This one, I thought it was a woman until I saw the bits.
Just as I am giving up hope,
I see more sculptures down this way.
I come across another hall, and this time, I find the sculptures of women that I had anticipated.
This is a goddess Eurydice.
From Hadestown.
From Hadestown, sculpted by a man, of course. I often wonder with sculptures, who posed? Did they make it from their own imagination? Because as an artist myself, references are a necessity. Then I'm like, what woman posed for this? So this was sculpted by Joseph Edgar Poe in 1834. So this would have been during the neoclassical era.
After searching for a couple of hours for the right statue, I saw her. There's something about the way that she's trying to cover herself that made me feel as though I had accidentally caught her unaware. A timidity that made me feel almost embarrassed to be looking at her.
I think she needs some clothes.
So here's a few fun facts about sculptures. Apparently lots of sculptors like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci would sneak on the black market human bodies that they could study, and it was totally illegal.
Y'all, I'm not the best at drawing anymore, so I'm a wee bit nervous how this is gonna turn out.
I'm just fascinated. How on earth do you get so much negative space out of stone. Like, this is incredible.
John Noss the Elder, one of the early outliers for the neoclassical movement, was inspired by the Roman sculpture of the Crouching Venus. At this time, Baroque was very in vogue. Art had become about eliciting a strong emotional response to the work,
I heard
In
somebody
public
just
space.
be like, oh look, someone's sketching.
often depicting scenes of intense brutality or sensuality.
I don't really like being watched as an artist while I'm in the process.
So, some artists started to feel the need for symmetry and order. Nudity in neoclassical art became more about virtue and heroism. Depicting the female form in nudity became more about the vulnerability and chastity of the subject. Hence, Venus trying to cover herself.
You know what? Because this is probably like Italy or someplace like that, we have to give her some sunglasses. I feel like instead of her like about to hit somebody, what if she's like holding her necklace? Perfect. I feel good. She looks so bomb, like total badass. I guess even though artists were like starting to open up and be like expressing themselves a little bit more with a little bit more freedom, they were still really adhering to the classical era where they're sculpting goddesses and gods and then also biblical stories. So this is another depiction of Eve. So many depictions of Eve. The question is, what clothes is she wearing?
Most of these sculptures were originally painted. So they would paint eyebrows and blush on the cheeks and even veins on the arms and muscles to make them look more realistic.
There we go, sculpture number 2. Oh my gosh, there's a sculpture of David. Oh, I'm so excited. The famous thing about the statue of David is just, his hands are abnormally large. Like, and his feet, quite frankly. Anatomically, it's a little bit askew.
And lots of statues were designed to be looked at from below, so sometimes they would skew the proportions slightly so that when you looked at it from below, it looked realistic looking up at it.
By the 20th century or the turn of the 20th century, artists began to really use a nude form in terms of like, it didn't have to be royalty and goddesses or people from the Bible. Instead of Bible stories, what if we created art that imitated life? Which I find this one absolutely stunning. Even the detail that he took in like carving her actual chest. Just a young peasant mother. I need a sculpture that's facing the correct way to make the composition in my notebook make sense. But none of the nude female sculptures are facing the correct way. Once again, facing the wrong way. They need to be facing this way. But I'm gonna go with this one here. And I think I'm gonna draw her because I think she needs some clothes. Toft is this the artist of the bather. Oh, she's a bather. That means we need to do a good bathing suit. I'm gonna actually draw her from here because then she's leaning in the correct direction and she's looking directly at us. Okay, we're gonna try to attempt some bathing suit. I'm gonna do a one-piece bathing suit with a nice low back because I'm the artist now. Now this will come underneath and it's gonna be a low back. Low cut, actually. So we're gonna come more like this, which will give us a nice side boob because that's fashionable. We love a good side boob. High rise right here. There we go. Give her some polka dots on her bathing suit. Oh, a hat. She needs like a sun hat. Let's give her a sun hat. That one's a little bit more of the skimpiest one, but you know what? I would wear that, so. Now, before we leave here, there is a particularly special statue that I really want to go and find. And it is not located in the Victoria and Albert Museum. This one is located in a park called Newington Green, and it was made in memory of a very special person, Mary Wollstonecraft. So this statue monument here was created by Maggie Hambling for recognition to Mary Wollstonecraft, who was basically credited as the mother of feminism. She advocated for women's rights in the late 1700s. She believed that the only real difference between men and women was that women just weren't educated to know that they were as equal as men. Around 2020, they were like, we need to have something that could commemorate her. And they created they unveiled this beautiful statue. However, it caused a ton of controversy because, as you can see, the female at the very top of this sculpture is completely nude. Feminists all over the world were furious that Maggie would sculpt a female nude, and they said, you know, so many sculptures dedicated to men have men fully clothed because it's about the achievement that they did. Some people defended the statue by saying, you know, if you knew Mary Wollstonecraft's writing, her writing was quite ickier than you'd expect. And so in some ways, having this monument of supposedly female forms all rising up in one big wave to the very top of the statue there kind of made sense to them in a weird way. I think one of my personal critiques is that she still has quite the idyllic body. I kind of wish that Maggie had gone ahead and been like, what's a body that's just maybe not idyllic, or maybe because Mary Wollstonecraft died in childbirth, maybe a body that really looked like it has born children. There's a part of me that kind of feels like the artist missed an opportunity there. Something I'm really appreciating is that the things that Maggie did include about the female body, I'm realizing a lot of the statues at the museum didn't include. Like, if you take a look very subtly at her legs, you can see a hint of cellulite. She's included the pubic hair. All the sculptures in the museum were like hairless. Mary Wollstonecraft ended up dying in childbirth to her daughter, Mary Shelley, who is known for Frankenstein, which I just think is so cool because her daughter went on to create literature that quite frankly rivaled that of any of her contemporary male counterparts. And now let's go put some color on these. And while I do that, I have a question for you. Do you think that this statue is appropriate for the mother of feminism?
When I began this project, I carried a certainty with me that the female form had been shaped, used, and claimed by men in service of their own artistic legacy, while women were quietly kept at the margins of sculpture and history. But the deeper I went, the more that certainty softened. The story of Western art revealed itself to be less of a straight line and more a tangle of contradictions. While few, women sculptors did exist, and nudity in art was never quite the unrestrained freedom I had imagined. And while I still sit in an uneasy space with Maggie Hambling's statue honoring the mother of feminism, one truth feels undeniable. When art is doing what it should, it unsettles, it provokes, and it opens space for conversation. And that, I think, is the greatest takeaway from this project. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, and remember to subscribe to keep in touch, as Joel and I are still on the beginning of our journey of traveling the world to experience humanity and connection through art. Also, if you feel so inclined to support us on our journey, you can do so for the price of a coffee right here. Till next time!